going, everybody? So what I'm going to explain to you is what makes data good. Okay, there's obviously good data, there's bad data, there's completely useless data. To be honest, anything useless to me is bad data. So I want to first start off with good data. What makes something good data? And we can get into the bad later. So there's two main requirements for good data. We need a Airbnb that has been managed full time by an Airbnb host for almost an entire year, and we need the algorithm to actually have tracked it during that entire time frame. So we know that the algorithm records the calendars on a daily basis. Okay, so as long as the calendar has been recorded for 274 days, we can take that information and figure out with a pretty close estimate exactly how much it's going to make over the full year, right? Over those 365 days. Whereas if a listing had only been tracked for 30 days and we took those, the amount that made during those 30 days and tried to times it by 12, that number would be way off for how much they would make over the full year because of the seasonality of short-term rentals. Some months they would have been making way more or way less, and depending on whatever month that we recorded, it would just really screw up what the annualized revenue would be. Therefore, if a listing has been recorded and tracked for 274 days, it almost is a full year, and we can figure out exactly what the annualized revenue number is. However, not only do we need the algorithm to be tracking the listing during that entire time frame, we also need the host to be a full-time host. And they don't even need to be a good host. They just have to be a host. They have to have not got their listing paused or paused their listing during that entire time frame, and then we can have a true good data. Okay, so by them hosting it and managing it the entire time frame, we know that they're actually getting it booked on a regular basis. There's actually people showing up. They're not just blocking off the calendar or only renting it out on weekends, right? They're a full-time host, not a part-time host. And so when we have those two things, that's when we know we have good data. And I'll get into the different ways that we are going to be able to figure those two things out. But essentially, when you have those two, you have good data. Anything else is bad data. It's not useful. You can't make good decisions based off of it. There's data scientists that can do things with it that are very helpful. But for you who's going to be using this data to be able to buy a property, you want to make sure that you're only looking at this good data and just ignore everything else. Now, the beautiful thing about it is that when I build these profit maps and when you receive them, they have the vast majority of the bad data already removed. So as an example, if I were to scroll down here, okay, and I were to slide over, this tells me how many listings that we're actually looking at for Chicago. So in my profit map, we have 1,592 listings that made it through as good data. Okay, they met the first two requirements. Whereas if you were to look on AirDNA, they're showing you that there's 7,221 active rentals, and they're showing you all of them, which means that the vast majority of this data that you see here, about 80 to 90% of that, is not useful data that you can use to make a decision, which is one of my favorite things about the entire profit map, is that you're basically only looking at good data. Now, again, it's not 100% all good. There's still some bad data in here that we need to remove, but we've gotten rid of a really large chunk of it for you. And so you have just, good data that you'd be looking at. Okay. And then in the next video, we're going to get into bad data and how to spot bad data and how to remove that. Okay. But now you understand what good data is, and we'll see you in the next video.